The Velkari had never understood humanity's obsession with individual lives. To them, a species that calculated worth in colonies and production quotas in strategic value, the human tendency to wage wars over single casualties seemed primitive, almost quaint. Ambassador Thelrix learned otherwise on the day the distress beacon arrived from Epsilon Station. The message was brief, clinical in its horror. A catastrophic reactor failure. 217 souls aboard. Evacuation impossible. The station was already breaking apart, tumbling through the gravity well of a dying star. The Velkari flotilla was 3 hours away, far too late for a rescue that would cost more in fuel and risk than the station's economic output justified. Thelrix had already composed the regret statement when the human frigate Remembrance tore through subspace beside them. "We're going in," Captain Sarah Chen's voice crackled over the comm, leaving no room for discussion. "Captain, the station is lost," Thelrix replied, mandibles clicking in what his translator rendered as concern. "Your vessel is not equipped for such extreme conditions. The rescue would be. There are children on that station, Ambassador." "We're going in." The Remembrance dove into hell itself. Thelrix watched from the safety of his flagship as the human vessel's shields flared white-hot, as hull plating peeled away like burned skin, as the frigate matched velocity with the tumbling wreck in a maneuver that should have torn it apart. They saved 43 lives that day, 43 souls pulled from the edge of oblivion, while the Remembrance hemorrhaged atmosphere and structural integrity with every passing second. The last aboard was a Velkari child, no more than 3 solar cycles old, her carapace still soft with youth. Captain Chen carried her personally to the escape pod, her own pressure suit breached, her face blue from hypoxia. The child's name was Salis, and she clutched a stuffed creature, some human toy, as Chen sealed the pod and sent it spinning toward safety. The Remembrance didn't make it out. The reactor breach that killed Captain Chen and her crew lit up the darkness like a newborn star, beautiful and terrible in equal measure. Thelrix composed a different kind of statement that day. The Velkari conclave, in its infinite bureaucratic wisdom, calculated the debt precisely. 174 lives lost on Epsilon Station, 43 saved, net negative of 131. The Remembrance and her crew of 62, total casualties of 193. By any reasonable economic analysis, the incident represented a catastrophic waste of resources. They sent the report to the Human Assembly with their condolences, expecting acknowledgement, perhaps some medals for the deceased, and then the comfortable return to business as usual. Instead, they got Ambassador Marcus Webb. Webb was old, even by human standards, his face a roadmap of laugh lines and scars. He arrived at the Velkari homeworld aboard a ship that bristled with weapons but flew under a banner of peace. The conclave received him in their grand chamber, where 1,000 representatives from 1,000 worlds conducted the galaxy's business. "We've reviewed your analysis," Webb said, his voice carrying across the vast space without amplification. "Your mathematics are impeccable." Thelrix felt his thorax relax slightly. Perhaps the humans would be reasonable after all. "However," Webb continued, and something in that single word made the chamber fall silent, "you saved Salis, that child, Ambassador Thelrix's grandniece, who now sleeps safely in her home because Captain Chen chose to die so she might live." Webb tapped a control on his wrist, and holographic images filled the chamber, a human woman laughing as she swung a small child through the air. The same woman, older now, standing on a bridge with crew who looked at her with something beyond mere respect. Sarah Chen had a daughter, Emma. She's 7 now. She drew this picture. The hologram shifted to a child's crayon drawing, 2 figures holding hands beneath a yellow sun, one labeled Mommy, the other Me. The chamber remained silent. Emma will grow up without her mother, but Salis will grow up. Do you understand the difference, Ambassador? Thelrix's mandibles trembled. Captain Chen made an irrational choice. The economic cost was irrelevant, Webb interrupted. And now his voice carried something that made even the most seasoned diplomats in the chamber shift uncomfortably. "You saved one of ours, Ambassador. One child, and for that humanity owes the Velkari a debt. We require no—" "You don't understand," Webb said softly. "This isn't about what you require. This is about what we are." The hologram changed again. Star charts, ship formations, resource allocations that made Thelrix's complex mind reel with their implications. 3 days ago, the Krillian swarm attacked your outer colonies. You've been trying to keep it quiet, to handle it through proper diplomatic channels while your people die. Webb's eyes, pale blue and ancient, fixed on Thelrix. The 4th human fleet is already en route. They'll arrive in 16 hours. Ambassador, we cannot accept the cost to your species. Is irrelevant, Webb repeated. You saved Salus. Humanity remembers. The Krillian swarm had ravaged 3 star systems before they met humanity's answer. The 4th fleet didn't just push them back. They pursued the swarm to their breeding worlds and gave them a choice, surrender or extinction. The swarm chose surrender. In the decades that followed, the Velkari tried repeatedly to repay the debt. They offered technology, resources, entire systems. Each time humanity refused. Keep your payments, the human ambassadors would say. Just remember as we do that one life, any life, is worth everything. Salus grew up to become a xenobiologist, specializing in human culture. She wrote her doctoral thesis on the concept of proportional response, or rather, humanity's complete disregard for it. She concluded that humans didn't calculate value in resources or strategic advantage, but in something they called meaning. One life could mean everything. One debt could reshape the galaxy. She kept Captain Chen's stuffed creature on her desk, a reminder that the most irrational species in the galaxy might also be its most extraordinary. And on quiet nights when the stars burned bright above her world, a world that still existed because humans had decided one child was worth dying for, she wondered if perhaps irrationality and greatness were simply different words for the same thing. Humanity never forgot what the Velkari did that day, and the galaxy learned that there are some debts that cannot be measured, some bonds that cannot be broken, and some species that will burn down the stars themselves to protect those who protected them. The Velkari had saved one human child. Humanity had saved an entire species in return. And somewhere in the cosmos, Captain Sarah Chen's daughter Emma grew up hearing stories of her mother. Not as a cautionary tale about irrational heroism, but as proof that some decisions transcend logic, transcend cost, transcend everything except the simple, profound truth that a life is a life and that is enough.